interaction between dungeoning and building. Because what I'm trying to get going on here with this longevity thing on this server is this gameplay loop. You know, the gameplay loop in base Valheim is basically around progression. Yeah? So what I'm trying to figure out is how to make it so that instead of the gameplay loop being around progressing through the biomes, that's just left up to the player's curiosity, and that the game itself occurs through dungeoning and getting material and building, and dungeoning and getting material and building. You can think of Path of Magic as almost like a surgery to try and adjust Valheim's core gameplay loop. Because I view the boss system in Vanilla Valheim as the main driving force behind the temporary nature of a Valheim server. And through learning more about this for Valheim, I can learn about this in old games. And then when I make a game, I can keep this in mind. And I have learned so many lessons from Valheim and Iron Gate and Yer about game development and what it means to make a building game. Because you can think that a building game is just about building with materials, but there's this whole element after it. Let's call it server building, world building. And it appears that most game developers tend to overlook these elements. So yeah, I would say even Notch, I'm not sure how much he planned for things to play out the way that they did with Minecraft, but I'm not sure if there are that many games really that have been developed with server building in mind from the very beginning. And I think that if I work any angle with a video game, that can be what I do. I'll get kicked in 10 minutes, by the way, for the auto restart in the morning. I started too early and I forgot that there's a restart in 10 minutes, so. But whatever, I've already started. At this point, I'm just gonna deal with it. I'll accept it. I'll just talk about something. But essentially, we have this loop, right, that's happening in normal Valheim. And that very loop causes the temporary nature of a server. That's my theory. I believe that by adjusting the gameplay loop, we can make it so that a Valheim server is a more long-lasting experience. And why does this matter? Because as I was just mentioning, before I got distracted by all of these undead, as I was mentioning, long-term immersion on a server is really important. If you want the game to work, a server has to be more long-term than a single-player variant of a game. Because a single-player variant, pretty much, you have between 40 and 100 hours of the player's time, right? Whereas a multiplayer, like MMO variant, you could get tens of thousands of hours of their time, or hundreds at least, maybe thousands, pretty predictably. MMOs are a whole new level of influence compared to like movies and books and all these things. And that's why I'm kind of shocked that like governments and all these places haven't really, like, I guess they don't realize that. Like think about it. Like an MMO like World of Warcraft, you can influence a person who plays it for so long. Compared to even a single movie, right? A person watches a movie they love, let's say 10 times, or let's say they're a die-hard fan, and they watch it 100 times in their lifetime. Okay? That's still like 100, 200 hours for a die-hard fan watching the content directly. Whereas an MMO, it's like whole lifetimes people spend. It's so much more time. And that's something that's always drawn me to it, because if we want to like make the world better, I don't believe in making the world better through feeding people or any of this kind of stuff, because it ends up being abused. Like, I'm not saying that stuff is bad, but if you really want to help people and you want to make the world better, what you need to do is be good to people. Like, truly, utterly, absolutely good to people. You need to treat people well. Our world suffers because of this lack of sympathy and empathy for others. We are very competitive, and we're very, let's say, countryist. We care a lot about what language people speak and where they're from, and we validate their ethical validity based on these silly things. So that's something I want to address in my life. I want to figure out how I can influence the world to be better. But I don't believe in telling people what to do as an effective means. I've seen a lot living in, like, I live in Nicaragua, right? And I've lived here for 6 years. And it's helped me understand that a lot of the things that we think are helpful for people, it's just nonsense. Like, most of the time, if you really want to help someone, you need to listen to them. You need to see what problems they already have, and you need to work with that, not to try and fix all of their problems based on what you think is best for them. But that's what we do, especially from the West. We like go around the world and we tell people that we know what's best, and the reality is we don't. Especially these days, you know. Maybe you could make that argument before, but things aren't going that well for a lot of people in the West, especially young people. There's a lot of mental unhealth, a lot of issues, a lot of loneliness. Like in my generation at least, I'm not like, I guess I'm not super young anymore. I'm like I'm young enough to not be middle-aged. I don't know what that means. Middle-aged in my head is like 20 or 50. So I guess in my head, I'm young is like 30s, and then adult is like 40s, and then middle-aged is 50s, but these are all just generalizations. But I haven't seen that much. I mean, like, I have a really lucky, luxurious life. I don't have much money, like, financially. I don't have a car, that kind of thing. But I get to do what I want every day, which is very, 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 very lucky. And I don't have, like, super financial security in the long run. Like, if I don't earn, you know, a couple $100 more in the next year or so, I'll have issues. But ultimately, I have the freedom to try things out, and I have a lot of time, right? And that's really, really lucky. So when I say that I have a very luxurious life, that's what I'm referring to. But what I've learned is that, like, if I want to influence people and help people, it really is about how you treat people. It's not about, like, telling people how to live or even giving them access to, like, education and these things. There's more good you can do by treating people well, looking them in the eye, and showing them the compassion that all humans deserve. I've personally seen that does more good for people. Like, even just simple things. Like here, for example, they really like foreigners. There's reasons for that I won't get into. But even just going to the grocery store, right? I walk to the grocery store like every couple days. And I say hello to everyone I see there. And I just like smile. And it's funny because at first people are like, they may be gruff with me or something. But after that's happened 3 or 4 times, something happens, and like, even though like I talk to people who are literally like live in the street, these kind of things, and I don't give them money or anything, but I just talk to them, and I learn about their lives. And what I've learned, doing that both in Nicaragua and also in the United States, is that most people are treated very badly. So when you genuinely just talk to someone, and you like, they feel like Yeah, you're acknowledging their existence. Like, literally, you don't even that's the funny thing, is you don't need to give them money, you don't need to give them things, you don't need to, like, try and fix their situation, you don't need to do any of that. All you need to do is, like, be like, hey, you're a person. How are you? Tell me about yourself. And it makes such a difference in people's lives. And that's one of my philosophies with game development, is, like, I'm trying to figure out how I can encourage more of that kind of behavior. And I think a lot of it has to do with the game itself, and that's why Valheim has been such an inspiration for me personally, because it showed me a whole other culture, essentially, that we can do. So for now, I'm just going to actually show the Discord, because may as well show off the live server chat here. Because the server will restart and it'll be back in like 6 minutes. And normally I start streaming right after this, but I completely forgot that this happens. I should probably like move it forward by like an hour or something, 30 minutes maybe. We'll see. But what I was getting at with Valheim in general is that it's such a therapeutic game. And for me personally, I've played a lot of games in my life, and games have played a pivotal, huge role in how I managed my life, how I deal with things. It's definitely... Yeah, I would argue that games have played a bigger role in my life since I was like 10 or 9 than people have. So that's like why I am the way I am with Valheim, because for me, I see that like there's issues I've had to deal with and things regarding my own mental health, where in many ways games helped me a lot, but in other ways I had to stop playing games like other people do in order to be okay, and in order to be happy, and in order to be healthy. If that makes any sense. Pretty much, for me personally, when I was playing games with other people in the same way, I was playing things like World of Warcraft. And a lot of game design these days in the modern era is about addiction. It's about getting the person to keep logging back in. And I've been referring to it as insecure development. It's this notion that you have to trick the player into playing the game because the game itself isn't good enough. Like, that's what I'm trying to define this term, because if I understand it well, then I can help myself not make the same mistakes that other developers make when I get into this. And so this insecurity in development, it has to do with marketing, basically. Marketing takes over, and this isn't a new thing. Gaming goes through a cycle of like beautiful games being produced, and then marketing ruining the quality of gaming so much that there's problems, and then that vacuum of quality then produces people who produce really high quality video games, and the cycle repeats over and over and over. So right now we're in the part of the cycle where there's a lot of really heavy marketing influence and a vacuum of creativity. But over time, that changes. So I want to be part of that force that changes that, right? And uses this vacuum of creativity to learn about different ways to do things, different ways to keep a game interesting. One of the aspects of insecure development, which is so common, is this fear of your player leaving. You do everything possible to keep them logged on. And it's a good comparison to a romantic relationship or even a friendship, where an unhealthy friendship, it's very clear that when you are super controlling or jealous, right, that's very unhealthy. But in a healthy friendship, people feel like spending time together makes their life better. They enjoy it, or they get something out of it in that way. Whereas in an unhealthy friendship, it's like stressful. You have to feel like you have to behave a different way. You have to keep track of things. You have to do all this, right? And that's basically the relationship most modern game developers have with their players. They don't have a healthy relationship with the players of their game. And they don't treat their players well. They don't treat the players with care through the way they develop the game. They develop the game to try and force the player to get as addicted as possible and to play as often as possible, as frequently as possible, often at the expense of the person's life, of the person's family, of the person's self, their physical body, their friends, etc. I don't want to do that. I want to do the opposite. I want to make games that trick people into taking better care of themselves when they weren't going to do that. And I think that it's possible based on what I've seen in my own life personally and how intense video games are and how into them people can get. 1 second here. Okay. Hey, now we can probably get back into the server. Let's see. Yeah, it's getting close. Usually, so you can look in the live chat, right? And then it tells you what's happening on the server. And this is another EWP thing. I try and operate the server with, like, almost as much transparency of player activity as possible. So everybody sees what everybody does, right? And this is all done through EWP. So there's this channel in Discord. And not only can you talk to players, and they can talk to you in the game. So people, like another player can be on their phone or on the computer, not in Valheim, and they can talk to whoever's playing on Path of Magic in the Discord channel, right? So that's what this is. But also, as you can see, building in the meadows, a reset is happening, right? This is the day that copper respawns. So that was happening. And the server says what's happening, right? So this player is shooting arrows in the meadows. It says what the weather in the ocean is. It talks about what's going on. And I find that this is one of the many, many aspects of long-term server life. Because that's the thing to really focus on, to care about. As I mentioned earlier in the stream, the thing I'm trying to do, like if you view any of my work in a particular way, like if you boil it down, it's trying to change the core gameplay loop of the Valheim experience. Because whoa, I just logged in to a dungeon and it was fine. That's interesting. Normally you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't log out in a dungeon, but I did. I was okay. I got lucky. Anyway, what I'm trying to do is adjust this core gameplay loop, because what happens in traditional Valheim is you end up basically finding a biome, and then you explore the biome, right? And then you get something, fight a boss, and once you fight that boss, you're done in that biome pretty much. Like, maybe you'll need to get, you know, some mushrooms for some food or something, but basically you're done in that biome. It's like, I don't it's almost like a game of checkers or chess or something. Like, it gets to the end and you're there. Which is kind of funny because it's a procedurally generated building sandbox game. So it's a bit odd to have such... Well, I can understand why it exists, but it's a little bit odd. It sort of goes against the nature of the sandbox element of Valheim, because that's what's kind of weird about Valheim. Like, Valheim is an incredible masterpiece, but it doesn't really do a job of teaching you how to enjoy it, if that makes sense. It kind of just throws you there, which is, you know, I mean, how are they supposed to know without making the game first, right? So I'm not criticizing like the way Iron Gate developed it anyway. But what I'm suggesting is that the world itself, it really does function to keep the player going through a series of linear events that result in the player not caring about the biome they're in. I'm not saying that entirely happens, you know, because a lot of people play Valheim the way they want to anyway, right? Because you can just do what you want. But that's kind of what the game is doing. It's pushing you in that direction, right? So on Palm, the mentality is different. The mentality is, okay, let's just accept that a lot of players stay in the meadows in Black Forest. And instead of trying to force them out, let's try and bring the rest of the game, particularly the building elements of the rest of the game, to them. That's why you can do these burial chambers and get such absurd amounts of different building resources. That's the very mentality behind it. It's all about figuring out, okay, let's make this gameplay loop, right? This loop where we are able to dungeon crawl, kind of like in the old days. You know, I've been playing a lot of older RPGs, and like, dungeon crawling ain't what it used to be, I swear. Like, it used to be a thing. You go into a deep dungeon and there's levels and maybe it's procedurally generated or whatever. But these days, it's not much of a thing. Like, we went in the direction of super fancy graphics and all these other things, and you don't need to like make a dungeon that procedurally generates and spawns stuff around you, because that's what a roguelike is for. And you're not a roguelike, you're whatever your game is defined as. Or, you know, it's a whole bunch of nonsense, really. But uh-oh, can I survive this hit? I think so. Yeah. I gotta be careful of that Twitcher. You see, I'm learning my yeah, learning my lesson, right? I was just about to talk about how I'm getting better at understanding that, like, as long as I hold block, I can stay alive. It's just certain starred enemies have enough of a hit that if you lose that bubble, like, you're gonna die in one hit. So that's what happens to me. You know what? I'm gonna change my bed. There we go. I keep waking up in the roof, so now I don't do that anymore. Here we go. We're gonna eat some better food this time. Fancy food. And then I will be right back, because I have some tea steeping, and I've learned that the more tea I drink, the better. Because I've been doing this wake up at 2 a.m. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So today, you get proper, well-slept 2 a.m. Jack. Not Monday Jack, because Monday Jack gets like 2 hours of sleep and is exhausted. But then Tuesday Jack actually gets enough sleep. So it's a lot easier for me to stream and talk when I have rested appropriately. But I'll be right back. I'm just gonna get my tea. Awesome. All right, I'm back. Team number 2. Why is it all... Looks weird. It's like very dark. Is it misty? Is that just what it looks like when it's misty? Yeah, it must be the time of day. I heard the fires burning, and I instinctually thought, I was gonna say, I noticed there's loads of fuel. You know, I used to think that maybe these kind of mods were silly, but to be honest, it's definitely nicer when things are just well lit. I'm not sure if having to restore fuel to the torches individually serves any good purpose to the gameplay loop. So actually, maybe that should be a thing, because, yeah, I won't get too distracted. But before I go get my body, I will explain pretty much what we can do is this. We can make it so, because anytime I see someone using a mod, I think like, can I make it so the server just does that? And then the mod isn't even necessary. So like, basically there could be a special chest. Let's call it like a resin chest or a resin barrel or something. So the resin that you put in the resin barrel automatically like gets used to fuel, to overfuel things. Because I like the way these are overfueled is quite interesting. Because the server can do that. It can overfuel things. So basically you could make it so you pile up resin in a particular place, and the player like does something like this. They go like, say, resin box or whatever, and then that designates this as the resin box, and then you could make it so mechanically the resin goes further when you do it this way. So instead of being 1-to-1, each one resin puts like 10 fuel in the thing or something. And so you can go to the resin box, and then just interacting with it pokes every single fuel container nearby and fills them, right? That would be quite a simple way to implement it. But I love the lighting, and it's definitely, like, I think it's beneficial for the player's psychology when the lights stay on. And I get what Iron Gate's going for, don't get me wrong. I know about attrition and attriting the player and having them use resources and how that builds the game world and adds depth. But I think in the case of, like, lighting is very, very touchy. And Valheim already has a lot of darkness. And in general, like, darkness is a problem. Not always, but it's like a game needs to utilize darkness incredibly effectively. And games always try and have things be dark, and the game developer is like, yeah, it's going to be dark, and the player's going to use torches, and then they're never able to actually stick with that. But like a lot of games start that way, but they don't end that way. So like even World of Warcraft, there was supposed to be a full-on like day-night cycle where the night was dangerous and everything. But so few games are able to make that work. And it's because of what I'm saying, that the lighting is so fundamentally important for psychology reasons. So when players can't see what they're doing in like a well-lit, clear scene, it causes problems, and it reduces their immersion. So I'm all for attriting the player, right? Because resin is attrition. Having to refill the torches to have light is attrition. But in that particular case, I don't want to attrit the player. I would rather not attrit the player, actually. Where did that cart go? Did something destroy it? Oh, no. Yeah, it's right here. So I remember now. I wanted some coins, actually, because I want to summon a cart. I think I'll just get... No, I'll be smart and I'll get a proper one. For now, let's just clear this out. I should make like a better pattern. Let's see, I've noticed that I enjoy it more if I can easily loot something. So if I make it so these bottom 3 rows here are my looting rows and I only play out of the top inventory there. I don't know if I could do that. I always bring like extra arrows and stuff. Maybe that'll work though. Yeah, for now we'll do that. I'm just gonna take the stuff I need to get a super cart. Which is pretty much just the cores, to be honest. I definitely enjoy the dungeons a lot more if I like make that looting process more easy. Or easier, however one says that. Then I tend to have a better time. So, let's see. Hey, this has been processed pretty well. Nice. Good job. So, I think I can just sell some cores, probably. Oh, yeah, okay. Definitely I can just sell some cores. Oh, we could get a proper cart there. Let's see. We're gonna go with this. Why does that always happen? I have not figured it out. But for some reason, this cauldron is always breaking. Like, and it's not a mechanic as far as I know, because when the EWP mechanics in Palm break something, they attrit the player, they take the resources. But as you saw, I had the tin to remake that thing. I picked it up. I swear, we have to remake that thing constantly. I'm honestly not sure why that happens. But here we go. I just need 5 more coins. Then I can summon the Ultra Cart. I'm gonna be a bit luxurious. Get the nicest cart inside the crypt. Although, I could probably just get away with a super cart. I guess I'll test it. I'll get a super cart, and then if I fill it up, then it would have been worth it to get an Ultra Cart. So let's bring our cart a little closer. As you saw earlier, I get fumbled easily. So I have to make sure everything's in the right place, otherwise I get confused. So there we go, that's there. We're good. And now we just need our looting cart. Right here. And we're just gonna use 405 coins. You can get 3 different carts, a normal cart, a super cart, or an ultra cart. They're different prices, and they have different health and different storage. This is a super cart. It's like the mid-tier cart. Well, actually worse than that, because there's boss carts which are invincible and all sorts of other things. But for now, don't worry about that. We're just getting the super cart. It's got like 2 inventory spaces, so we can store a bunch of stuff. And we're gonna do a little test, basically. I hear something behind me. Yeah, there you go. I see ya. Soul of Lab Rat. This is another EWP feature, if you haven't played on Path of Magic. When you die after the meadows, your body will make a ghost half the time. And then that ghost will try and fight you. And I don't even know how that came to be, but I love it. And it has been really fun. So I don't think that mechanic's going anywhere. We did turn it off for the meadows though, because there was this death loop that would happen to people who joined. And then they would get killed by their own ghosts in the center of the world. Which is obviously not ideal. Hey! I love seeing these pots, because each one of these pots, yeah! It's a chance for a silver. And 1 silver. Silver's very powerful. And I could go get some more of it, right? But I don't know if I'm gonna do that, to be honest. I'll probably make that its own episode at some point. Where you go like, take a cart and try and fill it with silver. Ooh. There's a whole crew of them here. What's up with you, Mr. Elite? You're, stuck, I suppose? Oh. But it didn't work. This is I think the last, like, sort of gimmicky thing about the dungeons here. Yeah, certain mobs, they're just taller. And I think also because very hard makes mobs bigger, then that problem is a little bit worse. But I don't know. I'm actually quite happy with how the burial chambers feel, to be honest. I love how chaotic they are, but I haven't seen the issue of mobs super overspawning, because basically before they could get in this loop, well, I'm saying before, but maybe it still happens. But basically they could get in a loop and then there would be like so many spawns that it crashes the server. Like, not crashes the server, but it would crash your client. And obviously that's not ideal. That ruins the point of playing the game when the game crashes itself, right? But now this is totally manageable. Like, I know, obviously this is intense, there's a lot of enemies. But I like it because it affords like a way to do melee, as you've seen me do this, right? Like, I can fight things, and if I mess up, like, I die, right? And especially with a starred enemy in the mix, it's easy to like not see there's an archer, and the timing of the hit, you get double hit, the bubble goes away, you get hit by a strong 2-star archer attack, and you die, right? And it like, I love it. I like how that feels. The trick though is then taking this feeling and keeping it valid, this melee blocking situation, throughout the rest of Valheim, because balancing melee and blocking in the earlier part of the game is one thing. That's relatively easy. But then keeping it powerful until the end of the game compared to magic, oof, that's a whole other game. We're gonna see how that goes. Yeah, so Geriatric came across a forest crypt with no rooms. So basically, when you respawn stuff, it doesn't get as many protections as when something spawns in like base Valheim for the first time. There's like some extra layers for the base first spawn that make sure like you don't get 3 blocked hallways, for example. Whereas on Path of Magic, you can get 3 blocked hallways. So you can pay... So basically, you have a couple options in that situation. One, of course, you can just find another crypt, but obviously that means finding another crypt. 2, you could pay 999 coins, just placed at the entrance, as people have seen me do on this stream, and then that resets the dungeon automatically, right? So that is one option you have, but you don't have to do that. You could also just wait, right? So it looks like this is clear. And also, I apologize. I know if you're watching, like when I do dungeons and stuff, I've noticed like when I play normally, it's pretty easy for me to remember which rooms I've been in. But then as soon as I'm streaming and talking about something, it's like noticeably harder for me to keep track of what I'm doing and survive, which also makes it more interesting. So like on one hand, it's a challenge, but on the other hand, it's like genuinely more fun because it almost like increases the difficulty, right? So in this case, we actually have a tiny little crypt. I think this was all of it, right? Yeah, we went to the right, we went to the left. This is the only other way, and it terminates. Yeah, okay, cool. So now we're just gonna summon a new one. And the funny thing is, so the dungeon itself actually has generated, and that's why like you can hear monsters. But just because you can hear the monsters doesn't mean you can access them. Makes sense? And basically the dungeons generate bigger than the player's access to the dungeons generates. And you can actually tell that if you do any kind of like sort of dev stuff with Valheim and you start flying around and looking at the looking at the dungeons basically. And that will make it so, or sorry, I got distracted by by tossing that stuff on the floor. But if you fly outside of the dungeons, you'll see that, yeah, sometimes there's a significant amount of dungeon that's generated that there's just no way for the player to get to, simply because Valheim has these like connections in each, let's say they're nodes, right? Like this is a room, and then there's a connection right here, right? And then there's these hallways. So these hallways can just end, basically. And then there could be a whole bunch of other stuff behind it, but there's a wall there that the player can't get through. So there's no way for the player to access that other stuff. And that's normally what happens when you find like a particularly small dungeon, basically. And I think actually I might be wrong about the protections thing now that I think about it, because it could be that it's not that there aren't protections, it's that the game notices that in that direction it would go out of the zone, basically. I'm not sure though. I don't know enough about the actual generation of the dungeons. That's something like I've been redoing the dungeons, but I'm redoing the contents of the dungeon and the rewards of the dungeon. But I haven't really, like, I don't do any kind of customization of the dungeon itself. Although you can. It is actually possible to do that and keep it totally vanilla. I just haven't. Because from my perspective, like, a lot of people make really, really good, interesting dungeons. And I feel like there's an abundance of that, and the problem isn't so much making a good dungeon, because like I said, there's loads of really incredible dungeons. The problem is making it so that the dungeon is worth visiting over and over and over again. So for me, I feel like that's the first thing to try and handle. There's not much point in me trying to make a custom dungeon when Valheim has this issue with their dungeon's obsolescence. Like, that's gonna apply to anything I do. So I should deal with that obsolescence thing first, and then I can start working on other strategies or other dungeons. Make sense? Ooh, yeah, 2-star Droger got me. But the notion is that, like, I guess because maybe you guys haven't seen this, but in Valheim world editing, people share the things that they work on, and there are some really cool dungeons. I've even, like, some players have shown me custom dungeons. I've seen all sorts of stuff, and in general, I'd say the most common way to customize Valheim is dungeons. People get really into dungeons, and they make these really, really interesting, elaborate dungeons of all sorts of different types, more than you can imagine. So that's why I'm interested in this alternative, because, like, it's not just for me. If I can figure out really how to keep players motivated to go into the dungeons again and again and again and again and again, then I can help animate the dungeons people have made that players don't use. Make sense? Hey Pan, good morning, or good afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. I guess for you it is afternoon, right? Is it like lunchtime, I would assume? Hope all is well. Uh-oh. Yeah, it's these 2-star enemies. They can hit through. They do so much damage. Ah. Oh, that's awesome, Pan. I'm glad you've been... So you've been doing the Frost Caves, right? What do you think, The Frost Caves honestly are one of the better ones already, because Iron Gate did a really, like, these dungeons can be simpler, right? And they're earlier in the game, so I think that makes sense. But the Frost Caves, I love the Frost Caves, to be honest. They have such an awesome vibe, and the bigness of the rooms, it just, yeah, it just feels epic. I really love the Frost Caves personally. But do you want to elaborate a bit about that? Like, why? What do you think about the dungeons? Why do you think that it's like solved already? Because from my perspective, it's definitely like we've made a lot of progress on it. Like I mean, I've been literally just live streaming burial chambers. I've never done so many burial chambers, and I genuinely enjoy it. I like testing out different mechanisms and different combat things and seeing the generation and all the hordes of undead. it's just really funny, and like the different things that can happen, you know? I've been really amused by, like, for me it's like mining. It's like trying to figure out all the different prefabs, because you don't have to make your own thing. You have to figure out what's already in the game that you can add that makes it interesting. So Pan's talking about the Frost Caves, and basically Valheim has are the ice chunks? Where are those in the game? Are they already in Frost Caves sometimes? Because I remember coming across the ice chunks, but then not really understanding like where they're from. Because basically there's these assets. It's almost like a big rock, like a big copper rock, except instead of copper, it is, ooh, this is a bad combo. Yeah, 2-star Wraith and a Twitcher. Give me a moment, sorry, I gotta deal with this. Yeah, so what we're talking about, for those of you listening, is that in the Frost Caves, we added these. Oh yeah, the Wraith is running from me because of my armor. Ha! You fool! Oh, thank you, thank you. I've gotten killed by these these Verger before, so I feel a little cautious. But basically, in Valheim, there's these ice rocks, and you can attack them with anything and break them apart. So you know how like there's stone rocks, like big stone rocks, right, under the ground? They're kind of like copper nodes in the Black Forest. Well, there's an asset like that that is... What, you can't get through that hallway? Really? That's funny. Interesting. So there's an asset in Valheim that is an ice crystal. It's like a big ice block, and you can break it just by hitting it with any weapon. And so we added those to the mountain caves, and it's really interesting because it like spawns in a way that covers up entrances to deeper parts of the cave sometimes, and it ends up feeling supernatural, like that's how it was meant to be. So I'm assuming like maybe that was one of the things they had originally and then didn't use it, or I don't know. But sometimes by like changing things, you just discover these mechanisms. Like I love the mechanism of a Verger spawning and you being able to, like, I have these Surtling cores, right? So I can sell stuff to this Verger. And like that adds this depth, because like now, let's say I want to keep the Verger alive, I can give them some food and I can heal them. And then they can help me fight, right? And that totally changes the mechanic. When you have one of these, they make that whole dungeon easier as long as you're able to keep it alive, you know? You're able to, yikes, that was so close. You're able to deal with things more easily, right? Uh-oh, look out. Oh, wow, she has a lot of health. Awesome. And the ice chunks are another just example of like, basically the way we redo the dungeons is, one, the dungeons just are told by a file to generate a lot deeper, right? So that happens, the dungeon generates deeper, but in addition to that, it needs to be filled, because if it's just a normal dungeon, then it'll have the issue of like, people don't really care that much about actually using it, right? So by filling it with things that matter, aka building resources, then we can make things more interesting. So that's the general idea, is first make the dungeon bigger, and then fill it with different possibilities. And that's why these yellow mushrooms are really useful, because the dungeon is already filled with yellow mushrooms. So all we do is we make it so every time a yellow mushroom gets made, it has a chance of turning into something else. And then the more of those chances that you add, the more variability in the experience, right? And I think for the most part, how it is so far works quite well. It's fun. At least I personally have more enjoyment from the burial chambers, although I'm also live streaming it, which is probably more interesting. So I have to keep in mind that like that makes it more interesting than just like playing normally and doing burial chambers. But even so, like I definitely feel that there's a lot of progress. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's like, oh, it's horrible. But I think that there's like, I get this feeling, there's this difference between, let's say, good and great. Like, I get this feeling when something is working, but it's missing something. There's just this, I don't know how to explain it, but I'll use an example. I was playing Fallout 2 and 1, and for me, normally, I have to, like, struggle a bit to get into an older game at first, and then I get into it and it's fine. But with that game in particular, it was just so good. Like, genuinely, that didn't even happen. And, like, some games, you play them, and, like, they feel like they have these, like, moments that feel like art. They're, like, so, like, it feels like it wasn't planned for you to have the experience, if that makes sense. But, I mean, it was planned because it was game designed, right? So that's kind of the feeling I'm going for, and I can tell that with the burial chambers, they are really fun. I like the variability. I like the loop of like building resources and this kind of thing. Definitely enjoy that. And the melee system works well. Like I can like I might even have an easier time clearing these guys with melee because I die so much when I use the other AoE, right? Whereas now, it looks like I can, like, get used to this heavy armor thing, and you basically use the weaker enemies to fuel fighting the stronger enemies. Because you get the bubble shields, and it ends up making this loop, right? So I'm getting used to that. Like I said, I hadn't really done much melee combat in Valheim before. So it was kind of a new thing to me. Not completely new, but relatively new. I died somewhere, though. Don't remember where I died. Did I die outside? This is the problem with talking. Let's see. This hallway ends, right? Okay, so this area is definitely cleared. I went through here. We have our diverger buddy. Why don't you stay over here, where it's yeah, there's nothing to fight over there. She's there. Oh, I died over here somewhere. Ah, yeah, that's a good strategy, Pam. That's one of the things like Palm players learn, because it's all about that bubble. So as long as you have weaker enemies to replenish your bubble, you can survive really like powerful hits that would normally kill you. You can take like the most damaging hit in the game once and be completely fine, just because that's how the bubble works. So Pan's talking about keeping a bat alive in the Frost Cave for that reason. Which makes sense to me. Why do I have a vague sinking feeling that I've already been here, but what happened to my tombstone? That's what I'm wondering. Dang, this is a big crypt. Holy moly. And did I die outside and then forget to loot my body? Is that what happened? There was a pack of undead out there. I don't even know though. Ah, yeah. Okay, that's what happened. That's relieving. Yeah, it's funny. That's what I was mentioning earlier. Like, I've noticed when I'm talking, especially when I get into something, like, I literally just forget what happened. Like, completely forget what happened. And it can be tricky. So in this case, like, I thought I died inside the tomb, but I had actually died right outside, right? So of course that's why I couldn't find my stuff. But there we go. Now I'm using a strategy of only having the top row, because normally I keep my food down here, and I have a bunch of arrows, and I have all this unnecessary stuff pretty much. But now, if I just have the top row, then I can have the other rows clear, so I can just not think about, like when I'm looting something, I just go doop 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 doop, and I don't think about it. And then I have, welcome! Oh, this is your crypt! Okay, hello, welcome, welcome. I guess, you want some food? Yeah, they only accept cooked food. So I can't give them a stamina mushroom, even though she likes stamina food. It has to be something that was prepared in a cauldron. So it could be like the weakest stamina food. What? What happened to her? I'm sorry. I have no idea what just happened. She lit. Well, it's okay. So what's weird to me is that she didn't just vanish. She vanished with a lightning thing, which is like a mechanical thing, but I don't know what that was. Like, what? I was just trying to feed her. Why did she go away? That's so weird. That's how, like, honestly, one of the reasons I've enjoyed playing on Palm so much recently is because at this point, there are so many systems and so many things that interact with each other that I don't even, like, I don't know why certain things happen. They just happen, and then I feel confused. And it's great. Like, that is so cool to have that experience when normally, like, you would think, oh, I mean, I've chosen what can happen, right? But it's just a bunch of, like, numbers and text in a text file. It's like, it's not the same as, like, playing the game and experiencing it. Like, it's so much different this way. And I genuinely have a blast. And, like, this dungeon, it's freaking huge. And what's happening? I'm going up? Like, I don't know if I've had that experience before. Like, how many times can you go up in a dungeon? It looks like a lot. And that's another element of, so you don't normally get this experience that much in base Valheim. And that's actually on purpose. It's part of the design they have. In general, they design in a way that tries to force the player to go to different biomes and travel and explore. And I think that works to a point. I'm not going to criticize that. But I think that what's better is that the player only explores out of their own genuine curiosity. A lot of game design uses these kind of, let's say, tropes, basically, that are old. And they come from a time where there wasn't very much tech available. So game designers had to make things work in a very abstract way. And like, let's take a game like Daggerfall, for example. If you find a dungeon in Daggerfall, let's say it's surrounded by bandits. You can kill the bandits and enter the dungeon. You could run away. what's interesting about that game is if you run away and then you go to an inn, the game will spawn a bunch of bandits in the room you sleep in when you try and go back to it. And then it'll tell you that the bandits followed you from where you were before. So the player's experience is one of the bandits, like the player imagines that the bandits came all the way from where they were. Whereas in, oh god. I know, oh no, I'm in a dungeon. Okay, I'm fine. I guess you guys don't know about these things. I'll just not talk about it. That feeling the dungeons get when they're deeper, it's like, it's awesome. Like this whole chamber, I normally come into these from the other way. I didn't even know you could just go up like that. That's really interesting. And so they're made that way. And like, I think one of the reasons they keep the dungeons shorter is because they want people to look for more dungeons. Which is, again, it's part of this mentality of trying to force the player to explore, basically. And you could argue that a lot of things in game dev are, you know, forcing the player to do things. That's sort of the more old school way, and that's what I was trying to get at, that like we don't have to do things so forcefully anymore. We have like more technology available these days, so we can do things in a more subtle way. So instead of forcing the player through like no choice or whatever, you, so to speak, force them through convenience. You know, the player will naturally do what's most convenient in most cases. So by making certain things convenient, you can influence their behavior. And that's usually a better way than trying to force them to do something. It's like, in general, it's better to like make 3 different ways to do something and then give sort of like 3 different reasons or benefits for different play styles. And the more you have like more of these general indirect benefits to doing things, then the better. Can I survive this? Yeah, I can. Okay. And what happens in a lot of game design is the game designers rely on like one main mechanic, one main progression loop, and that can cause a lot of problems. But also at the same time, without them doing that, like I can only look at Valheim and learn the lessons I've learned because Valheim exists and I can play in it. And that makes it so much easier for me to see things that might not work as intended. Whereas the developers in the first place, like, they start from scratch, right? So they have to try the idea out and make the game. And it's absolutely not the same. It's so much harder when you have to do that. Because you have to, like, put a lot of resources into making something happen. And then you can see how it works. But you can't necessarily just redo it, right? Whereas when we play Valheim and we use mods or whatever it is that we do, we can just take our time and redo stuff over and over and over again. Oh yeah, 2-star, no bubble. As soon as he like pulled his arm back, I was like, oh shit. But we have a level of control over the game, ironically, that the developers themselves don't have. Because they have so many resources they have to invest in order to make changes. Whereas when you have a Valheim server, especially with mods and like stuff like EWP, I mean, it's just your time. Like, I've been able to convert the past 9 months of my life into learning this Valheim scripting language, basically. And now I can test and practice anything I want to do in Valheim. And that's awesome. Like, genuinely awesome. It's not something I got to experience before in my life, so it's something that's made me feel very happy. Because now I don't need to learn some kind of fancy programming thing. I don't need to get some kind of job. I don't need to do any of that. I can just keep living my life and keep practicing developing the server and communicating with the players, learning about the issues, all these things. This is like what game development really is, and for a long time I wasn't able to do that for whatever reason. It's like sometimes it can be hard to get an in, I suppose. Like get your foot in the door, so to speak. But now I feel like with the server, I've been able to do that. And it's great because for me, like, I don't know, life's quite good. But I always wanted to do game dev stuff, or not always, but for a very, very, very long time. I just felt like it wasn't the time. Things didn't play out right. But that was always there in me. Like, I felt like that's, if I'm not doing that, I'm not doing what I'm called to, right? But now, I can just work on Palm. And I used to think like, oh, I'm gonna finish Palm and update it, and why? I can just keep working on it. I'll just keep working on it until I don't feel like working on it anymore. And I have absolutely no idea when that's gonna be. So that's why I've adjusted the channel around this, basically. So now, I can do live streams when the internet allows me, which is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday morning for me at 2 a.m. So I wake up at 2, do my hour of like chores and stuff or whatever, and then I can do the stream. And then that allows me to play test different features, right? And then those features allow me to practice game design, and they allow me to make content about something. Because by playing the game, we encounter the problems of the game. And the problems we encounter are the same as problems other people encounter. So, we can use those problems to make content. And that's the idea with the YouTube channel. And I've gotten the hang of this live streaming thing. I like this way. I found my time. This is my time. I found my routine. If I can't make it to this time, then I just don't stream for that day. But for the most, like, I can't because of the internet. But now I know what to expect, right? Whereas before, I didn't know what to expect. And so the internet would just not work, and then I get really disheartened. Whereas now I know, as long as I stream at the right time, it's totally fine. And that makes one part of it, right? But then there's the tutorials, and that's what I'm focused on now. Basically, I'm in the habit of doing the stream. I've been maintaining that. I got off making content a little bit during ValCon because I was like so into doing that, of course. But since then, oh, he's gonna kill me. Yeah, he killed me. 2-star. But since then, I've been back on the game. And I have the live stream down thing now. What I mean by that is, like, I know what live streaming is for me. It's a way to activate the server, to bring attention to it, to play test, and for me to have fun. It's not like a way to make really popular content. And I don't want, nor do I think it would be very good for me, to try and become a streamer where I play a lot and really often, really regularly. That's not something that I think, well, I value, really. I want to build a life that's more balanced, where, like, I use the computer, but not all the time. Because I personally, like, even if I do really fulfilling things on the computer, if I do it all day, I don't feel good. I have to, like, be in the garden and do other stuff in order to actually feel good about life for the most part. I can use the computer a lot, don't get me wrong, But I need to take like regular recurring breaks from using the computer. If I don't do that, I get really burned out, basically. So this is the situation. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, Mr. Locks. I don't know how I forgot about him. He's been here for a while. All right. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. I'm just gonna go over here. Yeah. The Loxin are intense. Oh, that reminds me, actually. I should probably put... Did I put player base protection on the lock spawner? I'm gonna add that to the list. Check if locks, migrating locks have player base protection. I may have just made it so it's a chance on any Grey Dwarf spawn, which inadvertently would have given it a little bit of player base protection, but not a lot. Let's see, okay, this time I remembered. I died outside, and then that locks. Okay, so I have to deal with the locks anyway. Interesting. How should I deal with that? Oh, well, I should get my body. That's gonna make it easier to deal with. I guess I can run around and shoot the locks. Uh-oh. Calm down. Calm down, mister. Calm down. What am I even trying to get out of here? Ah, that's right. I only have silver arrows. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about implementing that. I'm still kind of torn about that idea, to be honest, though. Because I like the idea of monsters following in and out of crypts. It would be hilarious seeing a Lox inside of one. But at the same time, it's going to be very jarring for players if that happens. And I don't know if that's going to be worth it at the end of the day. Because for the players, they're not at all. You didn't look at this place. That place used to have like a whole roof and walls and everything. But it's just like, I guess this Lox, something's happened. Something escaped and just destroyed everything. I'm assuming it's this guy, this Lox over here, this empowered tough Lox. Looks very incriminating. I have a new strategy. I'm just gonna run away from him this way. They can fight each other. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. It looks like that's already happening because those undead are getting attracted to the Lox fighting, right? And then there's all those undead from the crypt. The Lox is chasing deer. Of course. There we go. I think you're right though. I should move him further away. Come on, buddy. They're so powerful. Lox are really insane. It's funny. You know, they're probably the strongest monster in the plains. Especially a 2-star Lox, which is what this is, I guess, right? Oh, look. You can see the undead marching over the hill. Now that is awesome, to be honest. I love that. I think the undead have finally gotten to like a balance point. Whereas, like, this is like a reasonable army. It's not tons of wraiths and flying monsters. Before, there was this glitch where there could be literally like 1,000 monsters. And it was too much. Whereas now, they get auto-removed if that occurs. And shockingly, that auto-removal has worked so far. And in the situations where something would normally spawn, it works out. So now I think we're alright, right? Yeah, I'm getting pretty laggy. There must be a bunch of monsters somewhere. Yeah, there we go. wonder what's tanking my frame rate. Something is happening somewhere. It's like messing up my frame rate. At least the stream's working though. That's awesome. Alright, so let's see. I got my body back. Did I clear this whole tomb? I feel like... yeah, we've cleared enough of it. Whether I cleared the whole thing or not, I don't know. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move on to the next part of the loop, because I've basically just been doing burial chambers for a while, and we've accumulated a whole bunch of resources. So the idea is to then use those resources to build stuff, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a bunch of stuff into this base, and I'm gonna start working on the back end of it, right? Yeah, yeah, you saw the empowered blocks, yeah. Yeah, he killed a deer, and I guess he's fully healed. I'm just gonna leave him over there and hope that he gets distracted by the undead. But basically, I'm gonna take a short little break here, because the little rooster is cuckoo-cachooing, and it's very early, so I'm gonna go put him in his bathroom. And then when I get back, what I'm gonna do is work on some building stuff. So I'm just gonna go over here, and I will be right back. Alright. There we go. Now little rooster is safely in his bathroom. They roost in this area where like everyone can hear, and also the neighbors, and it's kind of loud. So I usually move him in the morning into the bathroom, and he sits on the toilet. And it's really funny because he poops. And so he poops in the toilet, and he does a little cuckoo-cachoo thing, but like in the bathroom. So it's very muffled, and it's just really funny hearing him off in the distance like the hens honestly bring a lot of joy to my life. It's hard to not talk about the hens all the time. Here we are. Let's see. 4. Oh, I still have like a solid hour. Okay, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm going to take a proper break, so I'll be back in 5 minutes. And then what we're gonna work on is using some of these building materials. Hey, a hen! Oh, I was trying to call him little lady, but it ended up being little lad, which honestly works out. I'm gonna go with that. But this area, I wanna work on this area. Figure out, we got loads of stone, and I wanna work on the dock, basically. This is a very powerful fishmonger, and he has managed to stay alive, so I think probably this is a good spot for him. And also we have the tune from earlier, and then this like really dilapidated dock. So I think that this area basically is what I'm gonna work on, and then I'll use the resources we got from the dungeon, and I'll see like, okay, I crawled the dungeon probably like 10 times. How many resources did we get from that? Was it a good amount of building resources, etc., etc.? Then we'll see kind of what kind of stuff we can make. And I'm already feeling pretty good about it. So I'll see you there. I'll be back in probably 5 minutes. Hello, I'm back, and now I'm ready. So, let's do a little. I love seeing these hens strut around. To be honest, at some point I want to do like a whole series of scripting just on the chickens and making them more realistic, because I like chickens a lot. And I've spent a lot of time like sitting with chickens and observing them, and they're immensely peaceful. Like, if you just hang out with chickens, it literally calms you down. It has this like therapeutic effect. But they have to be happy chickens in like a happy environment in a very natural space with a lot of plants. Otherwise, like, it's sad. But there's a whole bunch of things you could do to make chickens more realistic. Like in Valheim, chickens are very peaceful. In real life, this chicken, for example, it would not be here. In real life, this chicken would be here. It would be scratching up these turnips, eating these things, And then it would be laying eggs in a place like this, like in this little corner. They love to go like underneath little bushes and lay their eggs in like a pile. Not just randomly throughout. What nonsense is that? What kind of chicken does that? Just laying eggs all over the floor? Not in a nest? No one does that. No chicken behaves that way. You know, so I'd call it the chicken update. But that was just, yeah, I like hens a lot. Really. Really, really, really. Let's figure out, though, what should we do for this end? See, there's this gate here. Seems important. Mostly, it's hard for me to envision because of this dock area. The dock's all messed up, right? So why don't I start by just trying to make, like, a basic frame to keep the shape of the dock intact. I think it's me and Jerry, right? Maybe he wants to sleep. For stream's sake, I'll see. Normally, I just don't bother trying to sleep. But I think in this case, it would be nice if we could see what's happening here. And this is full of stuff still. That's right. I guess I can take this stuff. I'll do that after we rest. Oh gosh, I hear the locks. That's not good. It doesn't sound super close though, so maybe I just hear it fighting the undead. Uh-oh. Here's to hoping it's a reasonable distance away. Ah, he's up there. Okay, I see. Well, that that caused so many problems. I think it's funny how Palm like works against. There's certain mechanics that have just like when people tame things, they escape basically, and if a 2-star tamed creature kills a deer, it becomes basically feral and becomes aggressive again, which wasn't on purpose. Like, I didn't make that thinking, like, trying to make it happen, but it has happened. And I don't know. In the meadows, it was definitely too much, because wolves would escape, and then people are getting ganked by wolves in the meadows, and that doesn't help anybody. Whereas in this case, this is in the Black Forest. And I don't know, Black Forest is crazy. So, maybe it's alright. I'm not sure though. That's a mechanic I'll have to revisit. I usually don't like working on something unless I feel strongly about it. Like if I just feel like, whatever, then I kind of just ignore it until it becomes a bigger problem. I generally find that works better, because otherwise I end up working on things that just are irrelevant or don't matter. Make sense? Ah, okay, so there was some general structure here, because this matches here, this edge. I guess I can just get rid of all this for now. It's going to confuse me otherwise. Alright, so I'm trying to make basically a dock that wraps around. So I guess with that being said, I should integrate this shape here and start it wrapping around over here instead of like this. Because if I do the wrap around like this, then it's going to make this spot like a choke spot. I don't really want that. Instead, we're going to keep going. And let's see. Why does this feel off? Something feels off about that. Is it? Oh, it's just because it's probably because the piece is damaged. Yeah. Okay. I see. Then this stuff Yeah, I'm gonna need to move this. I may as well do that now. Loads of serpent scales. It'll be interesting once I get to the point in the game where I can easily do empowered attempts. Because so far, empowering is a very special thing. I have to go out of the way to get silver. Only get a little bit of it from these dungeons. But once you actually go to the mountains and you can get a huge quantity of silver, then empowering becomes about rubies and silver necklaces, not about the silver. Make sense? So I'm not even sure what that experience is like, because I haven't done that part. But for now, we're just gonna basically restart the dock here. I'm gonna work around this thing and try and integrate it, basically. Emphasis on try. Who knows what's gonna happen? I'm gonna set up a framework. I like making simple docks, nothing fancy. And we're just gonna roll with it. I think as long as I keep everything symmetrical, it'll be alright. This first part's fine. We're basically just extending the front of this. And then at this point, I guess one more unit, I'm gonna call them. A dock unit. And then now I'll start to curve. I need to get some support here. One second. Conveniently placed boats. We good? Yeah, we good. Nice. It's always convenient when you're actually at the right height to clip into the ground. So I wanted to go one further than that. And then start to curve. Probably just like that, yeah. Make a workbench though. You're gonna keep this workbench safe. Thank you, buddy. Alright. I still haven't learned the trick. Shift, boom. Boom. Wait, does it also copy the orientation? Oh, it does. I didn't know that. That's interesting. I still haven't learned to do this trick. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get the hang of it someday. I swear. What, I can't clip below it? Nope. Alright, whatever. Does that work? Nope. But that does. Yeah. Alright. I've learned that you can do two, and then you need to support it again. The third one will break, but maybe we're close enough to the water. Nope. Nope. So that means we're going to one. You can go two out before one of them needs support. So the third one will break. So when you're building, if you can clip in that third one into something, then it works. But here, the water is too deep, which is a perfect spot for a dock, actually. Generally, you want the dock to be in the deeper part. These rocks are a little problematic. They're probably fine. That one might be too close, but we'll see. I haven't crashed into anything yet, but I also like making the docks more circular. People have a habit of making docks where you have to, like, park into something. And that does feel very fancy. They make it like a garage, basically, for a car. But I don't know. I like just being able to arrive and then I park. I don't like having to orient the boat in a particular way to, like, angle it right. I just like to be able to just boop. And so when you make the dock like this, you could come in over there, you could come in over there, you could come in from over there, and you just put the boat on the edge of the dock. Like, it's easy, right? Easy peasy. And you get the circular element. I'm gonna do just something ghetto here. I think sometimes you can just clip it, right? So I could temporarily, as long as I hit both these pieces with each other, then that gives me more strength, right? So then, as long as what I'm building will be supported by something, I can then finish the pattern and then get rid of the thing I needed to just give me support in that first place, right? So there we go. Now we have our little circular shape. And I guess we're gonna make it so it you sort of have to decide how you want to orient these pieces, right? Because it'll change the visual of the circle. It's more circular if it's like this. But we already started this side like this, so I'm just gonna go with this way. This makes it more, I guess, you could say radial? I don't know how to put that. Like, you know how when this, if you look at like a drawing of the sun, the rays all come from the center, right? So when you orient the floor that way, the same thing kind of happens. Whereas if you orient it the other way, it puts the emphasis on the circular nature. Make sense? So depending on how you choose to orient a piece, it influences the visual. I guess that's pretty obvious, but some of the pieces aren't like that, right? Like, you can just build them and, like, it doesn't really matter. Like with the black marble, for example, and the stone, I think, as well. You can try rotating it, but it doesn't actually... Doesn't it, like, auto change it? Like with the marble. I swear, one of them, like, automatically changes itself. I don't remember, though. Yeah, there's something about that feeling of, like, the place filling out. It's nice. Now, how do I do this? What's the easiest way? Is it like 1, 1, 1? I don't know what pattern I'm following, but I think it works. Oh, I messed something up here. Ah, I see, I did it too far. That's definitely not right, but that's okay. Is it though? Is it? Alright, I guess I'll do it properly. See, this is symmetrical, right? I didn't mess up here. No, that looks fine. Okay, so at some point I broke something. Ah, I see, because I start like this, but the angle's harder here, because these pieces weren't placed with that same pattern, so that threw me off. It actually starts right here, I guess, right? 1, and then it turns, but there's 2. Okay, yeah, so 1, 2. So I can pick one of them. I guess I'll just pick the first one. And there will be a gap, but it's a purposeful gap, right? There we go. There we go. That looks more appropriate. Like I actually followed the pattern. Guess it'll screw me over later if I don't, right? Hey, yeah, good point. Pan keeps me alive. It's inevitable that, like, I turn around and there's like an empowered Lox just staring at me, and then it's only a moment of time before it all goes to hell. Alright, let's take a moment here. I feel like the circular aspect should be visible from up here. So that means the dock itself will extend it a little bit. I guess I got rid of all the stuff, right? Yeah. Let's finish demolishing this area here. So to see the circular element from over there, it needs to extend past this part. I guess like maybe this can be the center, so we can make this 2 units wider. That should work. Woo! That boat's so crazy. I definitely want to do more streams focused around using the boat, because I've noticed that like it's very visually easy because the boat moves so fast that it like is constantly illustrating EWP, and then I can go places that are interesting, so I can like show off the server in a effective way by like using the quest boat more. I've noticed that more people watch stuff when I'm doing that part. There's something about the craziness of the boat I guess it like is visually interesting immediately as they look at it. But out of all the things that have happened during the stream, that's been the things that, yeah, I've just noticed when I use the boat. The viewership is more consistent, basically, because there's constantly people coming and going. So when you're doing something that's more retentive, you notice that like people are staying longer. Make sense? So we're just doing enough here to test the profile. Let's go up here and see. Yeah, even now, it's kind of hard to see it. So I'm thinking maybe, what if I take one layer off of this edge here? I think I'll do that. Oh, I need the stone cutter. Stone cutter. That was weird. The hen. No, little lad, don't come out here. Oh no. What are you doing? I have a bad feeling about that chicken. Bad feeling. Alright, there we go. So now we can see the elements more easily. I hope that this top layer isn't super important. Well, I guess we'll see. Maybe it's stopping the diverger from aggroing something. I guess I can clear these bodies here. Talk about dedication. Becoming part of the foundation, quite literally. Alright, there we go. Now, if we look from up here, it should be better. What's that grade warp doing? Yeah, see, because I want to be able to see the edge of the dock from up here. So I've noticed when you're in the base has a feel for it, and the more you're able to see the other elements of the base while you're in it, the more interesting the base feels, and the more fun it is to actually use the base. So, how do we want to do this? I guess in this case, I'll start from here and I'll go this way. Yeah, and it'll just have like that kind of spike. And I'll figure out what to do with that later. But the good thing is, normally I run out of stuff, right? But now, I don't have to worry about that as much. Because we got a bunch of coins from doing all those dungeons. And I can just buy more wood if I need more. And basically the way it works is as long as you have coins, you can just keep building to your heart's content and you're gonna be fine. Let's see, is that hole big enough I care about it, or do I want to use a bigger piece? I guess I'll just do it this way. Because if you're already placing one piece, it's like the same resource cost for the computer as using a bigger piece, pretty much. It's not like our world, right? Now, what about this part? How do I want to handle these little spiky things? Kind of like extending them like that. That looks interesting. Squaring it up. Yeah, I'll just do that. Honestly, most of the time I don't know what I'm doing. I just kind of go with things and then it works out. Alright. Now those things... yeah, they're from earlier when we needed the support. I'm just going to assume they're important and I'll leave them in there for now. So we have this area. Now how do we want this edge part to be? I guess I can just fill it out normally and see how it looks, right? Oops. There's something inherently satisfying. For me, this part I really enjoy. Whereas getting the frame and like clearing things, I often feel like confused, to be honest. I'm quite easily confused. I just like accept being in a state of confusion. Life seems to be better that way. It's okay that I don't understand. Feeling like one has to understand everything all the time is very stressful. Especially in a world that's so abstract. looks kind of interesting. Alright, alright. Now this is bothering me. I feel like I'm gonna fall in this hole and die. So, let's fill this up. But how are we gonna do this with some kind of circular element? I guess I can do one, skip one, do one, skip one. Okay, that's my strategy. Do it, skip it, do it, skip it, do it. Well, that looks like a mess, but I guess it's our mess. Hey, that kind of works, I guess. And for now, we can just hide this like so. There we go. Yeah, good enough for me. There's something about like, yeah, just the floor needs to go all the way. Otherwise, if it doesn't, it feels weird. You know what I'm saying? It feels weird. Alright, there we go. We see the edge of that circular element there. I like that. Comes around here. I kind of like these little gaps. I wonder. It's not enough space for to get up into the place, is it? Let's see. Like if I clip one of these in, the player can't use that, right? I think the player can't. Because they need like 1 meter of space, right? Let's see. Oh, so you actually can get up on it. It's interesting. So you don't use it the same way, but you can actually get up there, huh? Interesting discovery. Oh, I guess that works well enough. Yeah, I'll just roll with it. It's gonna do that in each one of these here. Yeah, I guess because really it's not like the player needs all of it, right? Because they need enough space to be able to jump once, I guess. But the ladder also like makes them sort of jump a little bit, and then the water pushes them up. Well, it would probably work better if it was like, yeah, you know, like there was an actual gap, but whatever. I'm just gonna have it be, oh no, I remember. Shift this. Yeah, I'm learning. I'm learning. All right, let's give it the actual dock element, because I feel like it's not a dock until it has those little thingies, these things. Then it feels like a dock. So let's see, what's our pattern? We have this thing. So I guess like this, probably. Just put one at each end, right? Okay, how's that looking? Hey, that looks more like a dock. Looks a little weird to me because it's not trimmed out all the way, but I guess it's more practical. Let's see how practical it is. I should be able to jump over here, and then I should be able to start drowning. And if I can't get up, that's a problem. I have loads of health though, so I'm probably gonna be fine. But let's see. Are we actually gonna be alright? And the other test is if you can make it when you're encumbered. So you see, I'm already struggling a little bit, but it looks like I'm alright though. But then, what if I'm encumbered? Let's see. I seem to have lost some kind of connection. Oh no, I'm okay. Cool. My connection to the server isn't always very good, to be honest. But as long as I use the internet earlier on in the day, everything's fine. So if I just take one of these serpent meats, there we go. Now this is the true test. If I can get up on this dock while I'm encumbered with these weird things, I'm just gonna go with them because they're quite discreet, and I like how discreet they are, to be honest. It's interesting. The only other thing is I don't like the lack of trim here. I'm not sure how to make that work. Looks a bit weird to me. Alright, I guess I can test it here. If I'm encumbered, can I get back up? Looks like there's like an angle, right? But it's pretty gimmicky, to be honest. I ran out of stamina. Gotta try again. Okay, so it is possible. But it's definitely tricky. So let's see. Let's see. I don't know what's going on with the server. Keep getting this disconnection icon, but my streaming is fine. Well, OBS is fine rather, so I know that the internet's alright. It tells me immediately if like the internet stops working. So let's see. What if we do it like this? That's how that's set up. So I could just make it like this, basically. Add in a piece there, and then extend this. I'm just making a module because I like the edge of the dock to have like a thing the boats can just go up against. They don't need to worry, right? Whereas then the player, like, they can go under the dock a little bit, right? And it's fine. Whereas the ship can't do that. So I think this probably works better. It's certainly a lot easier to use in that case. Let's see. The true test is encumbered and drowning. So how do we do that? Oh yeah, I just do this. That's right, 'cause you can swim forever when you're encumbered as long as you don't lose all your health. Yeah, I think you swim at normal speed, which is interesting. So I guess this is the test, right? Can we just get up on here and then... Yeah, it looks like it works. Alright, well that's way, way easier to use than the previous situation. So I'm just gonna go with this. I like it. Alright, so let's establish the pattern in these other ones. How does it work? We get rid of 2 pieces? Or no, we get rid of 1 piece. Ah, and then a clipped piece. I see, I see. So we get rid of that one and this one. That one, this one. There we go. Yeah, now that I know the pattern in that spot, I can just extrapolate it out. It's actually a lot like scripting. Like you do... Hey! She got back to the top! That's great! Well, is that your approval of our system? The same kind of thing happens with scripting. Where like, basically you find one module, and then you get it going. And I guess we can use 3, that looks a bit more complete. And then once you get that one module, then you can just keep applying it out, right? But if you try and build everything all at once, then you'll like make some mistakes and mess it up. So you have to get this one part right, and then keep it going, right? And that's the same thing with scripting. And that's why like the more patterns you use, then basically the more, or your brain doesn't have to struggle as much to process everything. So you have more room to be creative, so to speak. Yeah, I believe in this thing called, I guess, let's call it cognition theory. So it's this notion that your mind has a finite amount of energy available. And everything you do is consuming some of that energy. So everything you think about that occupies your attention uses up some of what's available. And it's kind of like you have a liter of water, and every extra thing you do is another container you can pour that water in, but you still are limited to that original liter of water, right? And that's how the mind works. You the more you try and pay attention to and focus on all at once, basically the more challenging it's going to become and the more problematic, because your mind can only handle so many things, and the more you try and handle many things, then the worse individually you will do on each thing. It's just like how when I'm streaming, I lose track of where I am in the burial chamber, or like what I'm doing. I have to be doing something that I'm familiar with, otherwise it's hard to like remember what's going on, right? It's the same kind of thing. It's because my mind has too many other things going on, and it gets distracted by that. So when you build, you can keep that in mind, right? And it's the same thing with the scripts. And that's what I was trying to get at earlier, is like a lesson for Valheim. It's like that if you want to make a building game, like part of what makes a building game is going to lead to world building and server building. So if you haven't thought about that, like how are you going to manage servers for your game? How are players going to make servers? Are you going to have an official setup for them? Are you going to have like a relationship with a server host? What are you going to do to make it so that players experience that as part of the game instead of as an afterthought? Like, these are all lessons that I've certainly learned from Valheim. What's the easiest way to do this? I guess I could just make one band. It's like right here. Yeah, that'll probably work. As long as I keep it going through the whole thing, maybe it'll look fine. We'll see. It certainly will give enough stability. Oops. Can I even hit him? Hey, I can. That's funny. Nice. Good hitbox. Alright. Not bad. Not bad. Now I'm assuming, yeah, everything should be fine now. Now I should be able to place however many of these I want. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Nice. I need to get one of those Verger head lanterns. I really like those things. Especially on this server, honestly. Like, armor is good for the set bonuses and those things. But it's just really easy to die anyway, so having visibility sometimes is nice. Even if it means you lose the helmet buff or whatever. Especially building. Like, I would prefer to have the light right now, but I neglected to buy one because I've been so focused on playtesting different things. Half the time I can't even see what it's doing. I'm just hoping it's kind of right. And now obviously there's this symmetry thing here. We'll deal with that. I'll figure that out later. This probably, maybe it'll like continue, or the circular part will start like here. I'll figure it out. But for now, I'm gonna focus on this part here. It looks pretty solid. I'm happy with these. Now let's see, I wonder if we add, 'cause I feel like it looks like flimsy to me. To me, the wood always looks incomplete unless it's like that. But I think if we do that, then it would mean that the player is inconvenienced, basically. Yeah, so you see what's happening? It doesn't, like, I'm getting like stuck, basically. And I think it's good, yeah. So without that there, I can just go up, right? So I guess I could do something like, I could clip it, like custom clip it, right? So it goes up.
But at that point, I don't know, to be honest. Probably not even worth it. I can just accept it like this. Something seems off to me. I feel like something's missing. I guess that works. I'm easily pleased, I suppose. And then I'll see. I'm gonna do a test. I should be able to come up to the dock very quickly, which on this boat is certainly easy. And then just quickly park it conveniently and get out of it. So the thing I want to test is there's going to be more delivery stuff. I'm going to be getting things in the crazy boat, this thing, and then coming back to the base, right? So how can I coordinate some carts and chests to accommodate that process? We'll find out. We'll come in, obviously too fast, because that's what this boat is. It's just pure too fastness. Yeah, pretty good. What if we had fallen in the water? What then? Alright, we go over here. Okay, so I can tell this place is definitely fragile. And just one troll coming over here is going to cause some problems. But aside from that, pretty solid. Definitely easy to use. And I can access, I mean, that was really lucky, honestly. That parks perfectly. I can access this. So ideally, you can take what's here and put it in a container while being encumbered. Makes sense? But I guess really all that we would need is a cart to be out there, right? So why don't I take this cart? It's an invincible boss cart. And I'll just put it out there. Oh. I should put the meat away before I do that though, actually. Be smart. Scales. Let's see. Where would scales go? Teeth, bones. Hey, feathers and scales. There we go. A hen. Hen follows me. Oh yeah, we added that. That's not normal, right? I swear, what? That's only, oh yeah, okay. No, I remember now. There's an EWP script that allows you to give the other tamed creatures the wolf follow, but not all creatures. And so, that's right, boar can follow. Okay, interesting, interesting. Alright, just these, that's right. Trying to remember what I was doing. This is the cooked food, so this is the uncooked food over here. Meats, there we go. There we go, that looks promising. Alright, meats, here you are. Nice, nice. Okay, so that's solid. Now we have this. Good, 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 good. Hey, this dock is coming along here. All right. Yeah, I like this. The stairs could be... Oh, I have an idea. Oh, one second. Let's see, okay. Let's see how this goes. I need to get on the rock. We're gonna try... Oh, no, I can get on these pieces. Here we go. I just need to get on something that's not gonna fall. I don't know how this will look, but we're gonna try out goblin building mode. I don't know why. I don't know why that worked. Why I thought that would stay there. Pan asks, what is my view on the Ashland's feast on the table in the kitchen? I mean, I don't mind the feasts, to be honest. Like, it can be... In general, I don't think it's a good idea to leave earlier players really powerful feast stuff, but at the same time, the feasts run out, and like now, for example, there's just the feast I don't care about. So I don't know, it really depends though. You have to be careful. Anytime you give other players something, in general, it's better to not give other players stuff. Just because, like, you never know what they're trying to do for their progression, and some people, like, they're fine with that, whereas other people, they'll get frustrated, if that makes sense. So in general, I try not to give people things and just leave it up to them. Like, if they find something in a base and they want it and they use it, that's one thing. But like a lot of times, something that happens in Valheim is players they're trying to be nice and share things. And from the first player's perspective, they're helping the other player out, right? But oftentimes, especially when people play Valheim more long term, they're not really interested in just being given something. But not always. So it's really situational, you know? Like, there's plenty of situations where somebody gets given an item by another player, and then that item becomes really special to them, you know? And it has that crafted by that other player thing. So it's tricky. It's hard to say. But in general, yeah, in general, I don't think it's useful. It like messes up the let me rephrase. Okay, if you give people like progression items, that's problematic. Giving people like coins, for example, I don't know, to be honest. Like, it really depends. It really depends on the players and their experience, because I can immediately think of examples of both cases happening on Palm, where like in one case a player spawned one of the Ashland's swords, or not spawned, they just threw it on the ground, right? And then Jake found it really early on in his progression, and like he seemed to love it, like genuinely enjoy that. Whereas like for me, I would ignore the sword and not pick it up, right? Because it would influence my feeling of swords for everything. So for me, I would have not enjoyed that. But Jake obviously enjoyed it. Like, very obviously. He loves that sword, and he still uses it. So like, you see what I'm saying? I don't think there's any one set rule that would work, really. Because sometimes players are going to appreciate having, like, better food, and they're gonna eat it and then run out of it, right? So, I mean, from that perspective, like, does it really matter that much? But I've also had players where literally, like, I dropped an item that was further in the progression, and then they accidentally picked it up, got the recipe, and then literally quit the server immediately. Like, literally said, oh, I just got a bunch of recipes, and then quit the server and never showed up again. So like, some people really, they don't want to ever progress, and that's how they want to play. And like, that's fine. I'm not discrediting that at all. It's just like, whenever we talk in a way that's like, oh, you know, this is always this and that's always that, it's pretty much always going to be wrong. You know, there's always going to be people who prefer one thing over the other. And like, the problem is more when people start disrespecting that. Like, I guess a common thing that happens in Valheim is when people tell other people how to play, you know? I wouldn't say that's common, but like, I mean, everyone knows that, like, you can comment about how other people play, right? But in general, that's gonna be abrasive. Like, people, you may know, you may be right, you may be completely right about the better way to do something. But depending on how you go about communicating that, it can come across as frustrating, right? So like with me, it's different because like I'm running the server and I want to know how people feel about things because it helps me understand from like a game dev perspective. But when you're playing with like normal players, yeah, really, it all depends on what the player's preferences are, and you can't really know what they are unless you ask them. And like that I guess that's why like sometimes I get frustrated when people like tell me personally like, oh yeah, like I'm not doing something in the most effective way, and I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like truly, I do not play games to do things in the most effective way. I found that doing things in the most effective way for me makes me play games in a way that makes me suffer and feel unhappy. So I don't value it, like straight up. I just don't value that at all. But other people love playing that way. They absolutely love learning the most effective way that you can do something, and they will only ever do it in the most effective way. And like that's fine. I like when I talk about what I enjoy, from my perspective, I'm saying like this is what I do and what I like to do. This is my experience. I'm not saying your experience is wrong. Makes sense? But I guess because we live in this era where people are like looking to get insulted, and especially like it's a thing with like gamers online. People can be very like they're very aggravated sometimes, you know, and like people have a way of taking things very personally, and like I mean I've also done this as well. But I've noticed in particular that happens a lot in games. And like it's funny because you'd think that wouldn't happen in Valheim players too, because they're older, right? And people are always like, oh yeah, we're not 18, we get rid of those 18-year-olds, blah blah blah. It's just funny because I've seen plenty of adults behave way worse than young kids, and like they like to act like the young kids are the ones who are immature, and like I don't know, like it's not just young kids writing like nigga and penis on the wall. Like, I mean, I know that people act like it is, but it's not. Like adults also behave that way, you know? And it's kind of funny that we blame kids when like for the most part when kids play a game, they're playing more genuinely. They're like truly are just having fun in many cases, and they're able to just play, right? So like for me, I don't know, I admire that. Like I get that children like playing Valheim, for example, that would be not ideal from many Valheim players' perspectives because they're immature. But from my perspective, people are fucking immature, like really immature. It doesn't matter if they're like 12 or they're like 38 or 50. Like certain people just have tough lives or whatever. I don't really know how to explain it, but they take offense to everything and they make a bunch of fuss and it gets all dramatic, and like you can tell because everything is a problem with those kinds of people. Like everything is 8 paragraphs of typing and text, and like, you know, it's that's definitely a type online, I would say. Maybe that's what people mean when they're talking about like chronically online, but I don't know. I think it's different because like there's a difference between being very chatty and talkative. Like I'm definitely like that. I can chat too much and type too much and just type and type and type and type. Compared to like making everything, justifying it. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. That's the behavior that pisses me off. There we go. It's not like writing a lot, because I actually like reading when people talk about how they feel. The problem is justifying everything, right? And there's when people get really frustrated and then they write paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs on why something is unfair. And like no matter what you say, they're still convinced of the original thing, which is actually just a misunderstanding of something else that didn't even happen, right? Like that's always what happens with this type. And Valheim's not immune, even though the player base is in general more mature. Although maybe we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll eat my words if Valheim ever becomes more popular. We'll see what happens. Hello, Hilly. Welcome. Good morning. Good morning. I hope you're doing well. I've been revamping this dock so it's more practical. Now I'm wondering, do we make a shield generator? I don't like the noise of the shield generator, but I do like the fact that it stops stuff from taking damage, like water damage. I don't know. I'm gonna put one here and we'll see how it goes. Oh, nope, that didn't work. All right. That was so fast. It was like, no. No support. I gotta clip it into the wall a bit there. There we go. All right, how's that look? Yeah, you can't see the wall from the inside. That's true. How's it gonna be here? Honestly, I'm fine with it being red. Maybe I'll move it around a little bit though. Because the main thing, I'm pretty sure, well maybe I'll eat my words, but I'm pretty sure that the shield generator maybe it only stops rain damage. I feel like it stops water damage in general though. Aren't they the same thing? I don't even know, to be honest. Well, I'm definitely gonna find out because these are gonna get busted up real quick. But I think as long as the wood is within the shield generator's radius, then pretty much, yeah, it'll be fine. How's it looking? Alright, so the dock's more practical now, I guess. See, now there's this symmetry thing though, because that form up there has a door like that, and then this over here is so big like this. See what I'm saying? There's like, it's sort of weird. I don't know how I feel about that. Let's see, let's say it was to continue going this way. This door could be bigger, but really it's still, I don't know, I don't want to mess up the roof line either. I'd rather just work with what's already here. So I'm just trying to think, how can we visually make it so this ties into this? Because you see this, oh, I think I get it. No, the only reason it seems off is because of this beam thing here. So instead, let's try something else. What if I make this like a wedge, right? It's in 2 pieces. Or each one, sorry, is 2 pieces. So now I should just be able to get rid of these. Is that gonna make it look more? Maybe the symmetry just, yeah, there we go. I think it was more just seeing that hard line right there that was making it look off. Yeah, some stone tiles. Oh, that might work actually. It could go, like the stone tiles could go here or something. Or maybe like up to that part, right? Yeah, let's see how that looks. I think I can do that. Oops. Ah, you're thinking about a small one. Let's see. Ah, yeah, like a little, like this part, basically. I think I have an idea now, actually. Yeah, basically there can be a little trim. And let's see, should this be a full stone? Yeah, this can all be stone. And then the wood part will start there. There we go. That's my plan. And what's the easiest way to do this? Maybe like this. Can I clip these? And then is it visible from the top? Let's see. I never actually built them that way. Ah, yeah, you do see it. Okay. Well, in that case, I guess what I'll do is just use these pieces. Because now we have a bunch of iron, so I may as well use some of that. Makes my job a lot easier. I think that might be enough. You don't really need enough. You don't need that much iron as long as it's in the right spot, right? For the most part. Ah, no, I need one more piece there. Ah, I keep looking at the UI. That's right. Okay, shift. Shift. Delete. Yeah, I did it. Did it. I'm learning. I'm learning, I swear. I swear. Alright, so we can go with some stone. I gotta say, after playing Valheim normally, I don't miss... I like being able to buy wood and stone with coins. I definitely don't miss having to like harvest stone constantly all the time. Maybe some people enjoyed that process more than I did, but I find that like I like chopping wood sometimes, but I don't like having to chop wood for as much time as I have to build. If that makes sense. I don't know if that's just me or it's a normal thing. It looks more reasonable. I don't know how I feel about the line there, but that's okay. Let's see what happens if I trim it. Oh, it's gonna get a bit weird there. What, do I need to make like some stairs? How do I do it? Yeah, I didn't even know I could do that. That worked. Yeah, there we go. Better transition. I just didn't like being able to see under the little gaps there. I'm actually quite surprised that works. I don't know. Sometimes ideas come up organically and they're nice. And I think in theory, as long as this doesn't take any damage, then it'll be fine. Because these don't run out by time. They actually run out by taking damage. So if a projectile gets shot at it, then it'll take damage. I kind of wish there was a way to stop the noise, though, to be honest. It'd be interesting. And at some point, this will probably be centered a bit more. But that's looking pretty solid, to be honest. Looking pretty solid. Oh, it's 5:52. All right. It looks like I gotta close up shop soon because my internet is about to go to crap, and I've learned to be responsible and do it before. So I guess that means that's it. And that's it for now. Thanks for watching, everybody. Remember, Path of Magic is free to try out and join. You can just get the Discord information. All you need to do is watch some YouTube videos. And then you'll be able to find out, oops. And then you'll be able to find out exactly what you need. Sorry about my microphone getting all messed up. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching another episode of The Path of Magic. All of the crazy nonsense that you've been seeing so far has been done with Expand World Prefabs. Expand World Prefabs is a fantastic server-side BepInEx mod developed by Yer. And if it wasn't for Yer's hard work, none of this would be possible. So I strongly encourage you to support Yer if you can. And if you're interested in supporting my work, there's two ways that you can do so. By getting your own dedicated Valheim server at Zap Hosting. I've got lots of tutorials showing you how to set everything up, and it doesn't even take that long. All you'll need to do is go to the link in my description, zaphosting.com/jpvalheim. That'll get you set up with the BepInEx server straight away, and then you just need to change a couple config files, and I have all of the information that you need for that. The second way is to support me on Patreon, and you can just check out the link in the description below if you're interested in doing that. I understand that some of you might want to support me, but, you know, you're not going to get a server to do so, so here you go. Now you have a way to do it.
Thanks for watching, and I'm going to see you in the next episode of The Path of Magic. Bye-bye.